was watching a video about Pax Day, the new MMO, and it is really a good looking game. I think it's early access now, and if you wanted to pay a ridiculous amount of money, you could play it in a pre-alpha or pre-release kind of a state. Anyway, I'm not playing the game, but I did watch some videos of it. Looks pretty cool. And it got me to thinking, though, because somebody said, you know, this is possibly the best game ever, right? And everyone's always looking for that new MMO, that new thing. And every once in a while you see something, you think, my goodness, this is going to be super awesome. I'm excited. I want to play this game. It's going to be the new forever game that makes me want to quit everything else, drop it all, and go play that game. And then it comes out, and maybe it's cool for a little bit, but then you get bored with it and you go back to whatever it was you were doing before. And this is a very common thing for me, and I think it's something we've seen many times. For example, New World was like that. Everyone was like, yeah, that's amazing. Let's go play New World. And people were getting new computers for New World. They were setting up their gaming spaces around this game. They were super stoked, super excited. The game came out. People were excited initially, and then that excitement sort of died down. And it sort of turned into cynicism, I guess, and people got frustrated with the game at some point. But when I look at New World, just using that as an example, the game's better than a lot of other titles out there. It's not a terrible game. The combat is cool. The world design is pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff going for New World. I like a lot of the mechanics in the game. There's a few things I don't like about New World, but overall, from a game design perspective, I feel like New World might be the best MMO I've ever played. And yet, there's also that sense that there's something missing. There's something about New World that just didn't really make me want to play it forever. I played it for several hundred hours, don't get me wrong, and I enjoyed New World. I think it's a cool game. But it's not the kind of a game where I want to go on eBay and buy a bunch of New World collectibles so I can put them on a shelf and look at them for the next 30 years. And the point I'm getting at is a game, in order to really be a forever game, a game where people are going to play it, fall in love with it, and stick with it for a very long time. It's not just about being a good looking game. It's not just about being a title which is well designed from a game programming perspective. It's also far more about creating a sense of something that is real. So when you log in, you feel like you're going to a digital representation of a real place. That's why Lord of the Rings Online is such a popular game. Even though it's one of the older MMOs out there, it's a very popular game because people love and know the Lord of the Rings. It's a way to interact in a new way with a very old IP that people have known and loved for many years. So when a new game comes on the scene and people say, well, this is going to be a game that is designed well and it's going to do better than others because it's designed better, what is missed and overlooked is the fact that good design is only part of the equation. It's just like a relationship. Like, a woman could be super beautiful, absolutely a total stunner, 10 of 10. And yet, she could also be super forgettable. And every single head in the room is going to turn because she's absolutely a stunner. But if you don't have that connection, that sense of love, then is it going to wind up being that relationship that turns into 50 years of successful marriage? Because, see, it's not really about the looks. Yes, they matter. They matter to a point. Like, right, you're not going to go and probably you're not going to go marry somebody and spend the rest of their life with somebody who you think is really repulsive and unattractive, and you don't like the way they look or anything, right? So looks matter. You know, I think that's kind of just the truth. You can say, and this is true in a lot of applications. People say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter what is on the outside. What's on the inside is the only thing that counts. And yeah, that's kind of true. But everybody's got a limit. Like, I don't expect I'm going to necessarily want to be in a relationship with a really, really good looking woman, right? It doesn't have to be that she's a 10 out of 10. But I'm going to be real. She's at least got to be something like a 5 out of 10, right? And then the other 5 can be personality and values and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I don't want to play RuneScape. Like, I don't like RuneScape. I've tried to play RuneScape. I know a lot of people love it. Josh Strife Hayes loves it. But man, that's an ugly game. And I have some standards. I don't want to spend hours exploring the world of old school RuneScape, because there's better things out there. And I don't expect the graphics of a game to be 10 out of 10. Like, I'm hanging out in Elder Scrolls Online, and I think Elder Scrolls Online has beautiful graphics, but I also think there's a lot of games out there that have better graphics technically than Elder Scrolls Online. Like, where Elder Scrolls wins is because the IP is strong, the world building is strong, the lore is strong. The sense that it's something you want to be part of, something you want to learn more about, something you're proud to tell people, hey, I'm a fan of the Elder Scrolls. Even if you're not an avid player, it's still something cool to want to be part of, something you want to align yourself with. So whether you're talking about a relationship or a game or anything that's trying to be marketed, I think it's super important to understand that you have to have a balance between quality aesthetically and quality of spirit. You got to have something that's more than just skin deep if you're going to make something that stands the test of time. Now, you can have something skin deep that you sell. People will buy things that are skin deep. And after all, prostitutes and brothels have been a thing since the beginning of human civilization, right? So it's not a new thing. Sex sells. Or maybe to recoin that a little bit, things that are sexy sell. Could be that new game that everyone is like, wow, that's super cool, I want to play that. But is it going to be something you want to play for the next 30 years, or is it going to be something you play for 3 hours and then it sinks to the bottom of your Steam library along with the other 130 games that you have bought because they were super cool and then promptly forgotten about? And I think about this because the truth of the matter is, you know, I play Genshin Impact, I play Elder Scrolls Online casually, I like playing Cities Skylines 2 these days, I enjoy playing Anno 1800, and then there's a whole bunch of games that I've bought because they looked cool, something about them piqued my interest. And the truth of the matter is, on any given day, I don't necessarily feel like I want to take the time to actually play them. And I'm not saying I never will. I'm not saying that there's only 4 games that I've ever, that I ever really want to play. I'm not saying that. I'll probably get around to them at some point. But there's a difference between that game that I'm going to probably play on and off permanently for as long as it's around, and a game where maybe at some point I will finish one playthrough, one build, one run through, and then I'm going to say that was cool, I'm glad I did that. Just like how in life you could have a lot of friends, like people who you collect along the way, and you're like, yeah, I want to be this person's friend. I want to go hang out with them once or twice a year. Maybe it's fun to go to the restaurant once in a while and, you know, just hang out. But they're not really a major core part of your life. They're not going to be. They're just a little bit of flavor along the way. And then you have that few group of people that's your core relationships. You develop them, you see them through. They're the friends, the family, the loved ones. You get on your nerves. You're like, this, you suck. But obviously at the end of the day, you're still going to be sending them a text message. You're still going to be forgiving them. You're still going to be looking for their company, even if it's not perfect, you know? And I think in life, we should look for those kinds of things more, because when you commit to something that's meaningful to you, you wind up having a better experience with less, instead of filling your docket with a whole lot of different things and not really having that sense of meaningfulness. But it does. It comes down to a balance, because you do have to have some standards of quality. But you also have to look at quality which is measured in a more abstract way, because at least half of the value of anything that you associate with in life is going to be defined by spiritual qualities which you can't measure in a technical way. And that's something that people will never really be able to buy. Just like a game like New World. Again, it's a great example. Amazon Studios had a lot of money compared to probably some other studios. They started off with a very recognizable brand. They started off with a lot going for them, but they weren't able to make a game that was sticky in the same way as a game like Skyrim, because people knew and loved 30 years of lore writing for the Elder Scrolls. But they didn't really care about Eternum, because that was just a cool looking video game world that was made by people that were paid to make a video game world. And in the end, it doesn't matter if you put on some nice lipstick and a nice dress, if you have a personality that is cruel or nasty, or you don't have any personality at all. Like, I'd rather hang out with somebody who isn't perfect, but they're real. And so we should always look for opportunities to associate with things that feel real, that feel authentic, that are maybe not perfect, good, but not perfect. And then invest in those things. And it's okay if you go a little bit off the beaten path for a diversion here and there. That's healthy, because if you never look around at the broader world and you exist in sort of a silo, then you kind of become toxic. It's like I had these plants in a fish tank, right? I mean, not a fish tank with water in it, but a fish tank that was empty. I put dirt in the fish tank. I have these plants in there, and they're growing for a while. It's fine. And then I look in there, and like the dirt's got moldy, and there's these little centipede-looking bugs in there, and I just threw it all away because I was like, this is disgusting. I do not want this in my house, because it doesn't have the natural ecosystem it would have if it was out in the wild. It's just sort of festering in this contained and closed space without a proper ecosystem behind it. So you don't want to be so stuck in a silo that you wind up being toxic, unable to see beyond your own short-sightedness and the limited things that you are surrounding yourself with. You want to broaden your perspective and take an interest in a wide array of things. But that doesn't change the fact that you're going to have a better experience in life if your main things that you spend the most time and energy on are just a few things which are consistently adding value and quality and consistency to your life, instead of always being on the edge of your seat thinking you're going to find the next forever game that's going to radically change everything and give you an excuse to walk away from everything you've been part of in the past for something new and better. Quite often when we go out looking for something new and better, it just winds up putting us behind, because eventually we realize that the things that were old, the things that were before, the things that we thought were not glamorous enough actually did add value to our lives. And so we go back to those things. And then sometimes we wonder, well, why did we ever leave in the first place? Commit your life to principles that endure, things that endure. Ask yourself, is this going to probably be something that's real, that's remaining in 30 years? And if the answer is yes, then that's probably a better thing for you to put your time into than something that is amazing in the moment, but you really have no reason to believe that long term it's going to endure. As with all things, good luck on your adventure. Thanks very much for watching.